In this video, team members from our market research company, Drive Research, will share what they believe to be is the most important question to ask in a customer survey. These are some of the same questions we've used to help our clients measure high areas of satisfaction and critical areas of improvement. Keep watching.
So, in my opinion, importance and satisfaction rating scales are the most important question series in a customer survey. Now, I know this technically includes multiple questions, but we'll overlook that for the sake of this, for answering this question. So the way this works is first, respondents are asked to rank the level of importance of several different factors when deciding to make a purchase or choose a specific business to work with. For example, a bank or credit union. This could include having respondents rate how important digital banking capabilities are, how important interest rates are, services offered, and more. So after they ask this series of questions on importance, they're asked a follow-up question series that asks them to rank how satisfied they are with those same factors that they ranked for importance. The reason this question series is so important is because the results can be used to create a matrix grid that compares importance and satisfaction with each of the different factors tested. So this gives users clear-cut areas to focus improvements on and then strength areas to promote. So you might be wondering how to use this customer feedback, and once you receive it, how do you put that into action? So ultimately, the matrix or the grid creates 4 different quadrants. The first quadrant is strength areas. So these are areas in the market that respondents say are of high importance and high satisfaction. The second area are weakness areas in the market. So this means that respondents rated them high importance and low satisfaction. The third area are status quo areas in the market, and this means that respondents rated these factors as low importance but high satisfaction. And then lastly, factors in the bottom left area are uphill battles in the market, which means that respondents rated these factors at low satisfaction, low importance.
So what do I think is the most important question to ask in a customer survey? I would say likelihood to recommend, or sometimes also known as Net Promoter Score, or NPS. So this question appears in a survey as a scale of 0 to 10, where you have 0 is not at all likely to recommend, and 10 very extremely likely to recommend. And what this gives you is a quick measure of brand advocacy of consumers. So the way you get from the likelihood to recommend to Net Promoter Score is you have 3 categories. You have detractors. These are respondents who rate 0 to 6. Passives. These are respondents who rate 7 to 8. And then promoters, who are people who are highly likely to recommend, who give a 9 to 10 rating. So then you take the percentage of promoters you have and subtract the percentage of detractors. This is going to give you a score between -100 and +100. And another thing I also like to add is a follow-up question here that asks, why did you provide that rating? So why is this the most important question to ask? NPS is a standard measure of brand advocacy, like I said. It's widely accepted among everyone in the market research industry. So it's a quick metric to show you how well your brand resonates with your customers. That follow-up question of why gives you a deeper meaning behind the rating. So you can break responses up by detractors, passives, and promoters to kind of shed some light on that brand advocacy or lack thereof. And now you may be wondering what you can do with this information. So the likelihood to recommend question gives you a benchmark metric that you can use for future waves of the study, as well as comparing to competitors who may also measure NPS. And then changes, you can make changes as well as a result of feedback through that open-ended why question. And you can assess those in the next round of NPS ratings if you do future iterations of the study.
So I would say that it's essential to ask respondents about competitors. So whether that's identifying competitors or just having them rank against other brands that you're curious about, just to know where you stand. It's it's important to ask about competitors because you can discover new competitors that weren't on your radar before. You can also really understand how you stack up in comparison to competitors you're interested in. So these are just important things to know as a brand, especially if you're in a competitive market. And it's really important to use the customer feedback you receive from this question to identify some new opportunities. And you can also capitalize on your strengths, but also capitalize on your competitors' weaknesses and really understand what the gaps in the market are. So those can really help you develop those strategies just to make you even more competitive than before.
So I think one of the most important questions to ask in market research is the question regarding what factors are important to the consumer or your customer. The way you word the question might vary depending on what type of business you are. You might want to ask them what's important to decision making, what drove them to inquire with your organization, or what ultimately made them choose a product that you have. So what you'll want to do is ask that question, then ultimately list a variety of factors that they could select in terms of what's most important to them. So why is this question important? Well, it does tell you a variety of different things. It lets you better understand the decision-making process of the consumer. It also lets you know what's going to resonate with them the most. So if they hear some sort of messaging or advertising, these factors will ultimately resonate with them the most and potentially lead them to make a decision to use your company. And also, ultimately, it's what, like I said, it's what drives action on the consumer's part, and that's what you want to know. So how do you use the results of this question? Well, first off, we work with a lot of people in marketing roles, and I would say this question is one of the ones we most frequently reference in terms of recommendations or just in discussions with them about what they should do with the research that we conducted. So ultimately, the results of this question, those top factors that come up among consumers, those are things that should be used in your marketing. As you go and develop messaging and develop advertising campaigns, you want to make sure you're incorporating those factors into your messaging. So a couple examples, if in banking you learn that accessibility is really the top factor driving decisions with your organization. Accessibility is something that you'll want to talk about in your advertising and your campaigns. If you have a restaurant and you find out that atmosphere, entertainment is most important, as you put out ads, you'll want to make sure you cover those factors, talk about the atmosphere, talk about the entertainment, because that's going to drive a decision to use your business. And lastly, with this, you can also break it down a little bit further. You can look at this data by different segments. So if you want to develop ad campaigns on Facebook and develop different ad campaigns for each generation, you can look at this data and say, let's figure out what's most important to Gen Z, and then create unique messages, personalized messages to that audience, and then ultimately develop a different campaign with millennials with different factors that might resonate with them a little bit better. So lots of different ways that you can use this data.